All right, welcome everybody. We are just getting started. I'm just getting things set up. I'm seeing if the lighting's good, making sure the microphone is picking up my voice because I will be picking it up like this in order to talk. So I'm making sure that the audio is working before we get going. So bear with me if you can't hear me. If you can't hear me, comment below. So we'll be right back. Just hold on one second. All right. Oh, that's it. Just slam the door on my cord. That works. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to pull up the YouTube studio because I was told, I'm not sure how, but I was told that I could look at the chats while it's going on. So I don't know if I go to content. I don't know. I've got no idea what I'm supposed to be doing here. Someone help me. Maybe I can just watch it if I watch the live on here. Oh, wait, maybe I could. Okay, I see chats, I think. There we go. Welcome to DPC. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about a couple of projects. Yes, I'm using my Rode NT1 microphone because it's the only one I have. What am I going to do? We have a bunch of projects that I've been working on, and I'm going to give people a chance to kind of roll in here. So, once you guys are in, you're in. Just let me know. I do have an unboxing. I'm going to do. Have a difficult chord. Hold on. And the Husky's going to join us. Something I can do for you? Okay, he's just gonna lay down over there. That works for me. All right. So one of the first projects I was working on was the stubby fan. Everybody knows about the stubby fan. As a matter of fact, the bigger version of it is over here, right here, and it's that was the one I ran originally with a turbo motor, 800 kV, 22.2 volt, and it put out a decent amount of thrust. It could be more, but I needed more RPMs. So the idea was, what do I do? What do I do to give myself more RPMs and test the limits of the fan that I print to see how much thrust we can get out of this thing before I'm going to have to end up CNCing these things. So we came up with this basically planetary gear is what we did. And it's stackable. So you can double every time you put on another stack, it goes up. So this is 4-to-1, then it goes from that to 16-to-1, and then 48-to-1. You know the math. But the idea was, let me set the mic down. Hopefully that wasn't too loud. Basically, it's indexed. This is basically the heart of the stubby fan. It's indexed on the back side. You probably can't see it that well on the camera unless you zoom in. And then this will sit directly over this, and then the motor itself that actually engages the planetary carrier will give me that spin on the fan, and so on and so forth. That'll give us the 4-to-1. Now the motor that I'm waiting for on that project is a 6374. 6374? Yeah, 6374. It's a scooter motor that's basically low kV so that I can get what I need out of it. So we know the max RPMs at 48 volts is roughly 9,000 some odd RPMs. And that's going to be 4-to-1. So we're looking at conservatively 32,000 RPMs, which I think is going to be pushing it as far as the dynamic pressure on the blades on a PETG fan. Now, I was up for trying nylon 6, but that did not print well that large. For smaller shaft parts, it did well, and it was very, very strong. As a matter of fact, we're going to be testing the nylon 6 strength with the planetary gear system, because I replaced the sun gear and the planetary gears with nylon 6. Because the sun gear is what takes the brunt of the damage. And even with PETG or PETG carbon fiber, it strips it out after a certain RPM, no matter what. And that's just because of the torque. Eventually, this entire inside section is going to be printed in metal to mitigate that altogether. And then we'll test it again. We'll test it with the nylon 6. We'll test it with the metal gears. And then we will basically have our pairing that we're looking for. Because the 32 to 35,000 RPM range max is what I'm looking for the pounds that I want to push with this motor. And the outside cowling, of course, looks like our favorite pal here, Stubby V1. And the reason why it's designed this way is because it's going to be a corner motor on a large drone, a very big drone. Now, there's two ways that we can handle how these turbines act when it comes to drone motor control, because you're talking about a lot of wind, you're talking about a lot of force. I don't want to strip gears. I don't want to do that. I want to try and get stabilization down to not just arms connecting to the body of the actual Shrike XL, but gimbals. So gimbal actuator at the body and a gimbal actuator at the center, so we can have that full range of motion. So that's what we're going for. That also gives me another idea, which is fun, to add to the Shrike XL. Now, of course, the first Shrike XL is going to be with the carbon fiber tubes coming off of it, and it's going to be to see how stable we can get this with flight controller assistance. So we're going to be using the F405 wing or the Maytech or whatever I can get at the time. I'm sure I have something laying around. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to use two. Actually, we probably don't need two at this point, with the amp draw on those motors being roughly 80 on the currents. I'm running 4 basically 150 amp 48 volt ESCs. So that's going to be with the Toro power supply. I'm going to find it here. Give me one second. This one's got some wires cut on it, but that's what soldering is for. So one of these or two of these to power the Shrike. I was basically going with 2 of these so I could split the voltage, because this is capable of 460, but I don't want to put just 1 on there and then 3 on the other, or so on and so forth. I wanted to actually, because that would be over. So we're just going to split it on the middle. We're going to go 300, 300. So 2 150 amp, 40 volts, 48 volts. And that will be what pushes 4 of these, using that 190 kV 6374. And there's another version of it that's the 7070 if I need more torque. So I may try that one at this point. We're moving away from the realm of RC drop-in motors, and we're going to large high torque scooter motors. And the reason for that is because I'm relying more on step-up gearing than I am the RPM of the motor. So the voltage being 48 is important, and the gearing is important, being metal. We are going to test it again with the nylon 6. So at this point, we're going to test this entire system, the cowling. After I get more, I've got more filament coming in so I can print the cowling for this. I'm going to try and optimize this more. Lower the mass. So we're not running the low pressure turbine system that's in the rear of this one. We're running strictly out the back, just the fan to start. The low pressure turbine was more of a test, and I had one that I did with an impeller to feed an afterburner. This is for future projects, because this is supposed to be a modular system. So you can use it in the drones, you can drop it in the planes, big planes, but you can drop it into planes, right? And it would be something that you could swap out easily. And if there was something that was wrong, like a blade broke or something on the system broke. I was trying to make it as modular as possible so that you could just remove screws and change a part out after you print up a replacement. And if you think you're in a situation where, okay, this is working, but I think I need a stronger material for this, or I want to try this material for the blade, you can print one out, slap it in there, put everything back together, drop it in your plane, you're good to go. Well, the one that goes in the plane doesn't require the ductwork that the drone motor does. This drone motor has that foot cut out, and that's for initial stabilization of the wind. First off, to cancel out ground effect, because this will just suck to the ground if I don't. Because that's what I noticed with the first Shrike concept drone. In the Shrike playlist, you'll see that. I went through a lot of different testings with that one before I got one down. And you needed that cutout because you needed that relief from the pressure. Or would just either hop up really quickly and not be able to stabilize itself, or would have to be at a much higher RPM in order to break ground. So this kind of gives that relief to that. But I'm not using that low pressure turbine because it was just an experiment for a future afterburner for planes, not for drones. So this whole system is going to be dedicated strictly to making 4 of these motors in this style of cowling. First, starting with carbon fiber attached straight to the body, like I had mentioned before. Said that there. This originally was the fan I was going to run in the motor, and I was trying to drive it from the rear. Giggity. So that's still a possibility because it'll give me the opportunity to put the motor behind the system. These fans are able to pop in and out because they're held in by basically bearing or screws behind the bearings that they go into, which lock them into place. That keeps them from moving out too far and pushing against the motor or pulling away from the motor. And then we have the engine connection system here. That ass. And we already know what that stands for because it's in one of the shorts. And that just clips over the top and can be modified to fit just about any motor. So the idea is that it locks into place. You can put the screws in. I would use silicone glue just because you can't get nuts in on the other side. I'm not going to say it again. So you have to use the silicone glue to kind of keep them in there because they're not really supposed to be threaded in there. They're just a metal catch to keep it from pulling away from the shaft. Not saying it. Giggity. I did it anyway. Okay. So that's a couple of different iterations of the idea. Drive it from the front, drive it from the rear. Okay. But ultimately, the idea is to, yes, thank you. Sucks of Gaming. I'm glad you're here. The shop is looking good. If there's a delay and I didn't see it right away, then I apologize. But it is looking better. It's getting there. So I'm actually quite proud of it. We've got the EMP-CNC over there, which we overbuilt because you've seen the EMP-CNC kits online at V1 Engineering. They're not affiliated with me, but I thought I'd mention them because they're cool. But we didn't build the traditional slides. 1/8-inch steel thick, 1/8-inch thick steel piping for the rails, and then we made it 48 by 48. So it's a pretty big CNC, and that's going to help me with body parts for the planes I plan on doing. I'm kind of getting into the whole vacuum, carbon fiber wraps kind of stuff. Well, not wraps, but carbon fiber vacuum bagging and making molds with the 3D prints and then sanding them and getting them perfect. And then that's after I finish my tutorials on some fusion stuff I need to learn because I usually work with solid body and or T-splines, things like that. But doing the 3D sketching, it gets me. But CAD Build Fly is another channel that I've been checking out. They have tons of great stuff on there. Again, not affiliated with me, but he deserves a shout out for what he's showing you. Okay. Taking plane drawings, learning how to do it in 3D sketching. So if you check out CAD Build Fly, he does some really great stuff. And I mean, it's free, so go check it out, or jump on his Patreon and help him out. Because he does give you a lot of good information about modeling aircraft, using sketches and then using slices, and then doing 3D sketching and the intricacies of that, which is something I have yet to fully learn yet. I'm getting there. So that's why the plane behind me looks like Gru from the front. So we're going to set this aside because we already know what the plan is for this one. Get you out of the way. Just roll off there and brake. That's all I need. There. There's one there. What are you laughing at? I see that. LOL. Don't make me set my mic down. Come in there. All right. So what are we talking about next? I'm going to set the mic down for this. Sorry if that's loud. This was a design that I don't think I was totally sober for. But it still works. I don't drink. That was a joke. Interesting canopy, right? Predator. Anyway, the point of this whole design was I had an EDF blower motor laying around and I was bored. And I was waiting for stuff to get here. So we have the area to put the EDF motor in. This is the blower motor. Where did it go? Where'd I put it? Okay. Well, it's around here somewhere. There's a EDF motor. Basically from not an EDF motor, but a blower motor. It's a brushed motor from an old 22.2 volt leaf blower, which was putting out some pretty decent thrust, especially with the way it was ducted. So what I tried to do is I tried to see how much thrust was there and then make a plane for it. Just make a plane for it because I figured what the heck. So I kind of solid body modeled this over an hour and a half or so, and then I'm still waiting to put the wings out again. Still waiting for filament. It is all PETG. It is 2-wall thickness, but it is only 3% gyroidal infill, which makes it fairly light, And I've got areas where the wires can run through into the main compartment, and we're gonna try it. But just in case the EDF didn't or the blower motor didn't have the power we were looking for with the brushed ESC that I had to get with it, because this is the confusing part for me. I can get a brushed ESC, but I don't know if it's programmable to the point where I can turn off the reverse part and just get the full range of the throttle for forward motion out of the brushed motor. Or if it's strictly, you have to keep the throttle at the middle and you've got forward and reverse. Maybe there's a way to do it. Maybe there's an ESC that's programmable to do it with. Obviously, I want it to be waterproof, and I'll explain why. But maybe I just haven't messed with brushed ESCs enough to know. I used the last truck I drove was a Savage, and those were nitro. Those were fun. So I'm not really into the electric side. So if you have any ESC suggestions that will run 22.2 volt or higher, if you have any motor suggestions where I can use that waterproof ESC on a brushed system, because I feel like I'm going to get more power out of the brushed system than the brushless. And I'll explain why. It's because the fan is more of an air compressor than it is a fast air device. I mean, most EDFs, they want to move the air fast. The blower motors fan basically is designed to compress. The nozzle I design is how we get the thrust we're looking for. So using that fan, using the motor that came with it to give that a try, using the ESC to see how far I can push that motor is going to be one of the main tests. And the reason why is because this is supposed to be on land, in the air, and on the water. So this is designed with some baffled areas so that it can float, intakes so that it can actually tread water through the brushed ESC, because obviously DC is waterproof as long as everything is set up correctly, and the ESCs and the servos are all basically waterproof, which is easy enough to do. I thought it was going to be difficult, but it's actually a lot easier than it's a lot easier to basically to waterproof everything than I thought. The bottom is going to get sprayed with just normal plastic car spray paint, for the plastic interior. And the reason why is because that's fairly waterproof. And while I trust Bamboo Labs, I don't necessarily trust how I glue everything together. So getting everything sealed to make sure I don't have any leaks inside between any of the layers, if there's a problem with adhesion at one point, or any of the parts where I glued it together, just getting the bottom coated with that will help kind of secure the waterproof aspect of it. And I may have to do the whole inside of the thrust channel, and the reason why is because I'm going to be pulling water through there at low speeds. Now, the reason I designed it with bottom duct, like I said, pull water through, and it can float, kind of tread the water. The top ducts, and everyone was wondering this, except for Spider. Spider knows. It's hard to see the textures like the hard. Oh, we're all. Yeah, it looks good. Dang right, it looks good. David, welcome to the chat. Anyway, like I was saying, the reason why I put topped ducts in this, ducts, not ducks. My brother's afraid of killer ducks, zombie killer ducks. So we have to be careful what we say online. Was pulling water through the bottom to tread, and there is a front ducting work that pulls air in, but it's going to be somewhat in the water. What I didn't want is for it to pull water in and then nose down, because it was locking itself in because of the water in the front, because half the duct was closed. So open up the top so I can pull air in through the top and push the water out, pull the body up out of the water. Kind of a rudimentary design, may be genius, may not work at all. We're going to find out. I still have the elevators and the wings to print, like I said. On the wing tips, it's almost, so don't argue with me, Spider, almost a Harrier design wing. That was what the main thing was. It could have gone down farther, could have sloped a little harder, but I wasn't going for a Harrier design because I'm not building a Harrier. I just wanted the airfoil width. So that's what I went for. I'm going to tip tank the ends, like the baffle tanks that they have at the ends of the wings, just so I have that buoyancy in the water, so it doesn't dip the ailerons or the wings down to the water as I turn. The rudder will kind of handle everything in the water, so that should be interesting. But taking off from the water, that's going to be a challenge, and that's going to be one of the main data collection points for this. Can it land smoothly enough in the water to where it doesn't have any problems? And you're probably thinking, well, what's happening with the landing gear for all this? Well, the landing gear, that's a pretty simple solution. That's about setting up pods, small pods with just bearings and rollers, like to where it's just fairly short on, maybe an inch off the ground tops, front and back. And that will keep the whole craft low to the ground. I know that sounds crazy because you're like, you're going to take off and those elevators are going to dig into the concrete. But it might. We'll see what happens. But I want to keep it up high enough to where that doesn't happen. For those waiting for this to be my next lawn dart. But I also want to keep it low enough to where it's not. We're not worried about landing gear in the water. It's going to be waterproof. So that's the whole idea behind that. It'll still roll on land. It'll sit low. It'll look funny. Okay, it'll be the first low rider jet you've ever seen in your life. Okay, that's all there is to it. Cue the music. I know somebody will. But yeah, the idea is that this is a multi-role RC craft. I think it's fun to try something new, especially when you're waiting for very expensive motors. So that's where we're at on that. So that is that's Sally right there. So we call her Sally. And shameless plug, I probably won't be selling on Etsy, but I will be selling my merch. I wanted to put out some merch. Everyone likes the Stubby fan. I got a few people who are in love with the Stubby fan. There's Stubby V1. And so I made Stubby fan logos, and I made the DPC stuff and cups. I'm going to have shirts and hoodies and stuff like that. But I tried to sell. I'm going to be honest with you. This is not, I don't want to say something bad against a company. Starts with an E. Excuse me. Starts with an E. Sounds like a sneeze. And they kind of, I started selling on there, and they dropped my page. They said they violated some policy that. Well, first they never told me about. They never said. They don't even tell me the policy whatsoever. There's no one to talk to down there. So what ends up happening is I found them on Instagram, and I kind of sent a help me email, and we'll look into it, or a message, and we'll look into it, and we'll email you. Nothing after that. Nothing after that at all. And I sold some product, and they shut my shop down, and they kept my revenue. And I'm just not going back to that, to using that app. I'm going to use something else. And then I'll make shirts, I'll make hats, I'll make cups, I'll make mugs, I'll make the cold drink mugs, the hot drink mugs, the cups, whatever I can make you guys, whatever you guys want. And I'll have different designs that I come up with that will reflect kind of the projects that I'm doing. Some of the epic moments of like the twins exploding, maybe do a cartoonized version of that, put it on a shirt. Yeah, that kind of thing. But yeah, the twins. That's another thing that this was for. Was the twins, and that was a twin engine fan that was driven by one motor for the purpose of having a large scale type, say F-22 or any other jet that took two motors side by side, that you could drop in and have one power plant running two motors, and it would be a low voltage up to 48 volts, which is still conservative if you consider the size of the fan I'm spinning. I mean, it's 170 millimeter high pass fan design. So it's got a lot of resistance. So that's what we're working on, is pairing the motor with the fan. And that's why we kind of turned away from standard low voltage high kV motors, because they just burned up. Yeah, it is messed up. They just, I don't know, they won't return any of my messages either, which makes no sense to me. No policy. They didn't tell me what policy I violated. They didn't tell me, and they didn't tell me anything about my revenue. They haven't told me anything about the shop. They just shut it down, and then they kept the money. I'm like, I'm like trying to make money so I can keep putting it into this, because I mean, yeah, don't trip over my cord, Colt. Don't chew on the box. We're not opening it yet. Don't chew on that box. Big old husky. But yeah, I don't know why that they have decided that they're just not going to. They're just going to ignore me. They're just going to completely ignore me. They're going to tell me absolutely nothing. Well, no policy violation, no reason why they kept revenue. I don't get it. But hey, we'll go somewhere else and get the merch to you guys. If I have to like start a site and then get a drop shipper set up where you guys can make order, I mean, just do it legit, and forget those sites, those ones that like, yeah, you can do this, but we're going to take a huge chunk and give you no customer service whatsoever. I mean, have you ever tried to call one of these people and they're like, press 1 for English? I'm like, look, just put the guy on the phone. We know what language he speaks. Okay. So it doesn't matter what I speak. Okay. It's just, that's all there is to it. I'm not going to push it anywhere past that because I already know I don't want people to be like, that's not right. That's insensitive. Like, well, I just like to say, if I offended you, I don't apologize. And if I haven't offended you, just wait. I will eventually. So back to what we were doing. What other projects do we have on the burner? Well, not much. So basically the blower EDF or the multi-role plane, the stubby fan, that's going to be V3. We're going to have some fun with V1. We definitely have to. We have to do something with V1. We can't just let them sit there. We'll figure something out. What I would love to do is get like a huge, just a foam wing. And then, which is we tried to do. I have a subscriber that actually sent me a foam body, but they sent me the wrong size. Stubby wasn't going to fit on it. You guys remember when I put the little turbine on the glider? And it was just horrible. Kind of like this P-51 that's hanging above me. It wants to fly. It just doesn't want me to fly it. So, what do you do? I don't know if I want to mention the store because I don't want to. I don't know. Should I mention the store? Should I mention the online store that basically gave me no answers and took my money? Or, because I don't want them to be like that. They're slandering us. Blah blah blah. We took care of that, and it's like I can show you that you haven't taken care of it. I don't know. What do you think? What should I do? You want me to say their name? A lot of people shop on it. It's for homemade goods. That should give you 90% of what it probably is right there. It's for stuff you make yourself that you want to sell online. And I make it myself. And I was selling online. And now I had to have somebody print. I don't know if that's what they thought the policy violation was I had a printer make the merchandise that I designed. I didn't make it with my own hands. I made the design with my own hands, but I need somebody to print. I don't have a factory in China to make my stuff for me. Okay? I mean, I don't see how that would be a policy violation because you're not answering my messages on your iPhone. And that costs somebody a bowl of rice. Yeah. Don't even pay those poor people. Oh, that's capitalism for you, though, right? We live in the greatest country in the world that happens to be on fire, like literally, right? And like half of it's frozen. It's kind of cool. Pardon the pun. But I don't know. I think it's ridiculous that they would do that. And then you've probably seen the Shrike drone compilation. And that's the playlist I put together for the Shrike concept drone. And the Shrike concept drone was really, really good. And I guess I got the ADP boards that I wanted. or the APD. That's advanced power drives. It was a 500X, and it was a power distribution board that was able to handle the ESCs and the motor KV and the current draw that I needed for 4 EDFs. So it ran fairly well, except when I went to go back to order more, I went to a specific site. I won't throw their name out there, but it's where you go to get FPV stuff. So my point is, they stopped selling it to them, and I guess APD decided to go, well, we're going to go for more commercial contracts. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm in my last year of my engineering degree, and I'm going to LLC. So, well, I mean, what's the problem? Why are you cutting out an entire market, a hobbyist market, which is probably a big part of your income? And if it isn't a big part of your income, at least it's part of your income. So I'm thinking, who does that? Okay, that's like, who destroys an entire revenue stream because we're going to make more with doing these commercial contracts. You mean the commercial contracts for the companies that are controlled by the government, which means that you're probably going to get screwed over eventually. But hey, you could still be selling to hobbyists and making good money. Instead, you decided to go commercial. I don't know why, because I messed with the board for a while and it worked for a while, but it ain't good enough to be commercial. So I don't see somebody dropping a 500X in a commercial product. I really don't. What, just because you made the board a little thicker? It's a multi-layer board, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's a nice piece of equipment, but for the price, I mean, come on. The Toro can do that, and that's just wiring. So, okay, anyway, it's enough slamming APD. I just felt like they blew me off after a while. It was like, go get LLC and we'll sell to you. It's like, what the heck, man? Could you remove your crown so that I may speak to thee in court? And just like, talk to me normal. It's like, we're going to do commercial contracts only. And like, I'm walking up, hey, can I get a board? And they're like, peasant. That's just how they're doing it, So it's been rough. I've been like going from one company that I'm trying to sell merch to one I'm trying to buy product from. It seems like everything's getting cut out from underneath me as I go. And it's not just me. It's like everybody who is into the hobby. It's everybody who is interested in getting into this hobby. They're like, what do we do now? Because they're going to ban specific products if they come from China, and then we've got to make our own versions of them. But can we do it? Do we have the infrastructure for it? It's just, it's really going to get to the next generation of people who go into this hobby. So I don't know for sure how far the DJI ban goes. I don't know too much about it. All I know is that it's making things more expensive. There's a lot of things going around in this country making things more expensive. And it's ridiculous. So you want to get into a hobby. It used to be a lot cheaper to do this, to get into FPV, things like that. People were, excuse me, they were more, DIYers. They were doing it themselves. They were putting stuff together, goggles and everything else. So it's crazy. Now they've decided, okay, we're going to box everything up into the smallest possible units, which is great as long as they're good. But we're going to make them so. Watch out, dogs are on my cords. You're on my microphone. Come on, sweetie. Okay. That's okay. I'll let him out the back because I think they need to go outside. Hold on one moment, people. I gotta let the huskies out. And then Sucks Gaming, I'll get to your question. Come on, guys, let's go. Vivian. There you go, sweetie. Colton knows how to push the door open. And the Chihuahua too. Come on. Get out. Nobody likes you. All right. No, we love the Chihuahua. We know if the Huskies get real hungry, we'll have something to feed them. So they've been closing people's stores for no reason. If the AI spots the smallest inconsistency, it will shut the store. Really? That's seriously? But I think that's an excellent point. I'm glad you bring that up. But at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, why won't they give me an explanation? Like, they won't even tell me what I did. They're just like, you violated policy, you're done. Okay, well, what about my revenue? You can't have it. Why? No answer. Hello, it's me again. Can I have my revenue now? And then I'll start the shop, and then you can tell me what policy violation I did so I don't do it again on accident? No answer. They're just like, gave me the biggest middle finger and just gave me no answer whatsoever. So, yeah, it's just, that's how they are, I guess. But, all right, now, we do have one other thing to do. We have an unboxing to do. I know everyone has probably seen an unboxing of an X1 Carbon. But when I got it, I literally, like, Bamboo Labs was like, make sure he does a video. I want to see his reaction. Well, I didn't video the first one. And it was because I was just too excited and I was trying to get used to the printer and I wanted to get everything right. So I'm going to unbox another one. So if you want to stick around for that, you can, or if you want to talk about more stuff, if you got questions about what's going on in future projects, feel free to ask. I'll check the chat. We'll continue the conversation while I'm doing the unboxing because this should be fun. If I can get this thing out of the box by myself, that's the biggest problem. You have to lay it down on the ground, slide it out, and then pull the whole unit up here, but we'll see what happens. So, hopefully it doesn't break. Find something here. I love this Damascus style blade. It's absolutely beautiful. It was a gift for my birthday. And it was probably one of the best gifts I think I've ever received. It's handmade. It's beautiful. I love it. I'm going to ravage the living crap out of this box with it. I'm just kidding. No. We're going to cut the tape. Go as slow as we can so we don't break anything. Because that's what would happen for me, right? Like I'd be live doing an unboxing and I would just break the living crap out of the whole thing. That's going to happen now. We've jinxed ourselves. That's all there is to it. Sorry. That was probably loud on the mic, huh? Let me slam that down on another table so it doesn't bust anybody's eardrums. All right. I pull the mic over here so you can hear me. A little bit better anyway. So, foam corners. Are you coming in or not? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the trash and stuff and I'm just going to kind of stack it up over here. And I'll clean it up later. One on the top corner sections, and then of course, this is like the most fun wrap I think I've ever had to play with in my life. So, hold on one second. We're going to try and get this out of here. It's in a bag. Pull it up in the bottom, grab it from the bottom, and then set it on the table. It's not that heavy. All right. Okay, so it's in a bag. Let's pull out the goodies in the bottom, but we'll do that after we get. What we'll do is we'll get everything out first. Following instructions is not something I do, so hopefully I don't rush and destroy something. Just open it with no grease whatsoever. Get in there. Okay. All right. This is the combo. So oh yeah, these I'm telling you right now, these are great printers. They really are. Yes, they're expensive, but they are great printers. So once you great, I'm gonna have fingernail marks on this. Those will come right off. All right. I want to be careful doing this because I don't want to mar anything up. I want it to be as pristine as possible. But this is the same thing, just like my printer. It's like they make this beautiful machine and then they put this tape on it. That see, out of the box, it's even got like some circular scratches along the side right here, right out of the box. Right out of the box. But I think it's just because it's just my nails scraping off on a slightly porous surface, so I think it'll wipe off just fine. If I can get the tape off. Okay. We're gonna go as slow as possible in this, but as quick as possible. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. One of my drill sergeants put that in my head, and it stayed. As I break this, watch. Let me move that way, move that way. So it's very gingerly right there. That's what scares me. Is like let's give him a whole bunch of plate glass to not break, hopefully. I'll bet money there were instructions to actually remove this stuff. So I'm just gonna, it's gonna be as violent as possible. Don't be chewing on the no packing stuff. Get in the house. Get in the house. Go on. Push the door open for the girl. Come on. Push it open. It's okay. Here, let me. Oh, I gotta help the huskies. No. Don't Corey. Come on, guys. Let's go. Get down. Really? We're always gonna chase the huskies in? Really? What now? No, you can't because of that cord. Okay. Let me get this door. Hold on one second. Excuse me. All right. So this did come with the AMS, so it's the full combo. Ooh, look, a box of goodies. So let's see what the box of goodies is. It's the same box of goodies I got in the last one. Don't play with the packing material. He's gonna play with the packing material. Don't, no, Colt. Fine. Take one and go. All right, so, okay, so this is where the screen comes in. You get extra cutters, you get a scraper, you get extra nozzle wipers, you get lubricant for the screws, the lead screws. It looks like stuff that didn't come with the first one. Oh, we got a 04 nozzle. Some other components in here. This is for the spool holder for the rear. Can you not do that with the foam right now? The power cord's here. We'll get everything hooked up. We probably won't run power to it right now. We won't run power to it at the moment, I'll say. We're just basically unboxing. So we got the screen, we've got extra pieces here. Basically everything you need to swap out nozzle wipers, and it's got some, looks like it's got filament cutter in there, maybe the blades. Yeah, the blades of the filament cutter. and just the extra stuff you might need. It looks like it's already preloaded with the nozzle and full extruder, so we don't have to worry about that. Let's go ahead and get this tape off so that I can pull any foam out of the front before I pull up on the machine. Okay. Again, I'm not going to attempt to try and pull that all the way off. Okay. I'll just untape it as so, and then I will remove all the stuff from the glass at one time, as opposed to trying to rip the tape off the plastic, because that's just going to make a huge mess. So is the audio still good when I'm on the other side? I'll make sure everyone can hear me okay. All right. Let me make sure got the foam out. There's more foam down here underneath the bed, which I assume you remove after the bed is raised, if I remember correctly. This here, it's got to come out. It's like a morbid game of Tetris. Here, good Lord, this is enough. Like literally, there's enough petroleum products down there to build another printer. Okay, what am I missing? Oh, that's right. I forgot. Been too long, man. Been too long. They like to hold this together with screws and shipping. So before I can pull the rest of that AMS out of there, we got to remove these screws. And I don't have the right end on there because, of course, I don't. Stick with me. Let me find it. I believe it's this one here. And it is. Yay. Okay. Out there. All right. So at the front of the AMS, down at the bottom, you've got two main screws to remove before you can pull the AMS out. And it sits inside of a plastic carriage that's over the bed. You got one screw there. One screw there. So basically, once you get the tape off and you get the top plate off, so you have some room to move around, remove those screws. The AMS should come straight out. All right. More garbage. More garbage. Oh. An odd place for instructions. Underneath everything. All right. Put the AMS over here. Right here for now. And we'll get that prepared. And then let's remove, we've got on the inside here, let me do this first. Gotta pull the plastic off, which basically assembled it with the glass on, or with the plastic on the glass, which, I mean, isn't a terrible idea, but just makes the removal a little bit more difficult. All right. Good. Oh, so this one didn't come with a warped face. And I got a warped face on the first one. That's okay. All right. So next, we have, turn it back around. This carriage in the front. Wait a second. So we got a carriage in the front that has this plastic tray over the top of the bed. Hopefully I'm not entirely in the way on this one. Colt, you are not in a really good position here. Can you move? Okay. And you have to remove 4 screws from that in order to get the carriage out. Hopefully you can all see that okay. Can you stop playing? So now that you can see this carriage comes out with these 4 screws, I'm going to turn it back around so I can get to it from the top and not block the view. Well, maybe I don't have to turn it around. So this doesn't reach, this tool doesn't reach that screw. So, did they give me an Allen wrench with this thing? Seriously? Oh, here's one. Oh, here's another one. What the heck? Okay, that works. So we could have done it the easy way, but they chose the hard way. I hate doing this by hand. So I get the driver with an end so thick it doesn't go down in there. I can only kind of guesstimate how, if I've got it out completely. That's when you pull on it really hard and if plastic breaks, it didn't come out all the way. It's the easiest way I can suggest to test it. I don't really mean that, so I hope nobody takes me seriously. If it doesn't come out right the first time and you don't get enough turns, just yank on it and you don't need those threads anyway. Thank you, pain in the ass. Come on. Okay. I believe I got that one. But they make sure they're down far enough you're not using any tool but there. If I start late, and you can't get anything down in there to do anything anyway, except for this. We almost there? Almost. Okay, we're almost there. Stop eating stuff over there. It's foam. In a minute, I may have to bring him back in. Are you enjoying yourself? He's just over there eating the packing material. I'm serious. He's going to poop out popcorn. Sorry, this is one of those screws that you're like, yeah, you get the last one when you're working on a car and it just doesn't want to come out. Okay. Got the carriage out. That you will never use again. Oh, you like the shirt? Yeah. Again, I hope it doesn't offend everyone. Just 99% of the population. Actually, 1%. I think 99% would probably be more like, yeah, let's open a beer. You know, because that's what they think it's all about. You know, that's all we do. We're rednecks, right? Now there's 2 more screws down at the bottom of the lead screws on the plates here. You want to make sure that you remove those and into this extra foam that happens to be in the way. Here, boy, you hungry? You got to remove this one, and there's one right there that's conveniently tucked away between 2 pieces of plastic, and they give you a tool that takes forever to use. For the price, an extension and an electric driver, or at least a driver extension, an extension that you can get for whatever electric driver you're running. I mean, give us some options here, okay? You got ADHD, this is not a good thing to be dealing with. Screws you'll never use again, but you've decided to make sure that they're there. And then the most cramped places in the world to get them out. I'm not complaining. I'm really not complaining. I'm complaining a lot. Yeah, shop looks great. Thanks to a friend of mine. All right. Open. I'm losing the blood to my fingers. Okay, we got it. Here we go. I'm just trying to do this to where it's not me in the way of you being able to see the printer. Oh yeah, I forgot about this cool cardboard. Let's rip that out. I believe there's also a set screw here. But I could be wrong. Okay. Yep, I was wrong. Okay. Let's get that out of the way. Okay. I don't think the LiDAR camera has anything over the top of it. There's nothing I'm aware of. So here's some cardboard. You hungry for that too? All right. One more screw down here. Oh no, don't fall behind there. Ah, no. Come back. Okay. I'm right-handed. Left eye dominant. So. We're going to have to reset the skirt like this. Yeah! I don't think we needed that wire. Did we need that wire? It smells like rubber. Are you serious? Just give me the damn thing. Okay, hold on. Let's try this. You deserve a middle finger. Sorry if that mic hit was too loud. Well, I'm going to start it and drop the damn thing again. I suggest you guys get some kind of driver with an extension. You know, like an Allen wrench that's this size, but only 8.5 feet long. Come on. And everyone's like, use the small end and just do it that way. Nope, that ain't gonna work. I don't have the patience for that. Come on. Lord. Things to enjoy with carpal tunnel. Let's pull that off. Just do it with my fingers. It's a bit more effective when you use the right finger. All right, I think that's all of it, except I have to raise the bed in order to get the foam out from underneath it. So I think I have to plug it in, but I don't want to. First order of business. Let's get this in the AMS set up. Oh my gosh. Are you serious? It's going to be as gentle as I can here. Okay. I got my fingerprints are getting all over it. Enjoy cleaning that off. All right. Yeah, like literally like filing my fingernails as I'm touching it. And everything comes right off with just a quick shirt cleaning. Okay. Oh, look, the instructions. A quick start guide. No TPU, no damp PVA. Does anybody store their PVA in a damp area? Like, you know what? We better get that PVA out that bucket of water because I don't think it'll work. Pull out the box, pull out the AMS. Oh, look at all the stuff I already did. Pull out the screws at the bottom, hook up the AMS. It is what it is, my friends. It is what it is. What's interesting about this is the AMS has never given me any problems. Oh yeah, pull that plastic off that would have protected it from getting damaged. So satisfying. Here, have some plastic. That's fun. You're eating everything. Equipped with static electricity. Dude, everything's sticking to that. I'm gonna have to ground it out. Jeez. I'm gonna like touch the metal table and then touch this and then you're like, okay. Oh. So I've never, like I said, I've never had problems with the AMS. The only thing I've really had to do, honestly, because I never read the instructions in the first one. This is just extra tubes for the inside of the AMS. Never had to use them. Never. So, set those aside. Oh, wait, hold on. More trash I gotta get rid of over here. You want to eat that too? A huge mess to clean up when I'm done because of you. So, the desiccant packs, if I'm not mistaken, I have to open them up. Otherwise, it wouldn't make much sense, would it? Inside the top of the AMS, or inside the bottom of the AMS, at the top of the machine, which is now the AMS. You got these stickers you got to pull off, and I'll show it to you. And it's going to be these two areas right here. You just open the gate, pull the desiccant packs out of their bags, put them back in, you're good to go. I'm not going to do that quite yet because I don't really need to. Because it's just a waste of desiccant packs at this point if I try. Because I'm not using it quite yet. The back's pretty easy to plug up. Plug for it should be right here. The way the instructions tell you to hook it up is to, wire connections, figure it out. Oh, really? So you got this part. This plugs into the machine. I'm like ready to do it, and you guys can't see a damn thing. Here's a mirror. Oh, let's close the glass so we don't have any problems here. So, I'm gonna be gentle. I've said that before. Okay. So, you're told the plug here, that's where that plug goes. And then the AMS plug goes here. Or the plug from that goes to here. That's the way I have it set up. Could be the other way around, doesn't matter. It'll work. So plug this up to the AMS. I don't think it matters which side you plug it into, because you're just going to plug it straight into the side here. I'll turn it to show you. Right here is where you're going to plug it into, and it's the same with the tube. So you're going to grab the tube, and you're just going to spin it around and shove it in the hole till it clicks, and you know it's grabbed. So the AMS is good to go. So it's plugged in here, plugged in from the bottom, plugged into here. Okay. It says this connect to the 3D printer. Oh, and I guessed too. No, it's because I have one. Already working for me. Another thing I don't have for this one yet is the vibration feed. So I'm going to be honest with you, no matter what table I put this on, it's the one on my desk, okay, is ruthless. When it's in high, if you put it to ludicrous mode and you don't have the anti-vibration feed on, your desk will walk across the room, okay, or any table you put it on. If you've got it on an individual table without the anti-vibration feed, you better put iron weights on that thing and make sure this, or freaking one of those nail guns, you know, because it prints fast and it prints good, but I mean, seriously, I hope no one near an earthquake detector runs one of these, or more than one, because the whole building is it's just insane how fast it is. The next steps are pretty much, foggy at best. I think I could spin the screws up on my own. You heard somebody at the door. It's a cat. I'm sorry. Okay, so I've got that done. The dogs are upset because of a cat. Like, that's a big surprise. Bed in there, down. I got to raise the bed up in order to get the foam out from underneath. So, we should probably plug the screen in. That might help. Oh, look, 6 people. All right. So, the way you want to do it is, I'm sure they tell you the instructions, but I don't give a damn. It's going to be the SD card side facing that way on the printer. And of course, they make the plug so convenient for you to reach. I think as you plug the screen in, it should just plug in. You shouldn't have to worry about all these freaking connection points. I mean, the box is big enough and you have enough foam in there. Ship it with the screen on. How about that? I'm not complaining. I'm just critiquing the packing effort and the fact that it's a pain in the padded ass to get in there. So you push it down in there, and it's got these links right here that you push it in and to the left to lock it in. After that plug is in there, make sure those clips make the clicking noise so that you know that cable's in there. And now we're good to go. I'm gonna leave that screen protector on there. So at this point, we'd be ready to raise the bed. If I'm not mistaken. Let me just make sure so that I don't have any other issues to worry about. Remove the cardboard from the tool head. Okay. Take the AMS out. Wee. Hook up the AMS. Colt, you're driving me nuts, dude. I mean, really? All right. So, yeah, just like I showed you. It's saying remove the 2 screws with Allen wrench with H2 blah 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 on the bed. So the bed's been, I've had the screws removed already. Plugged in the screen. We're not using the spool, like you can read it from here, right? We're not using the spool holder on the rear because we're using the AMS. And then it says basically it's just about putting it together. So once it's powered up, at that point, you can kind of safely remove that foam from the bottom. But we're not powering it up right now. It's just more of an unboxing to see what's going on. So you got the AMS, but let's look at the goodies. There's still goodies down here. You have a Maker World clock components kit. Why? I mean, why? It's cool. We'll do it. We'll do it. Make the clock. That's okay. Okay, so this spool is you've got your PLA basic. It sends you with one of those. I'm not going to load that up right yet. Sounded redneckish, didn't it? PLA CF, which is the carbon fiber, which is which I completely forgot about because I'm using PETG CF mostly. I forget how the PLA CF stacks up to everything. And then of course you have the bamboo support PLA for PLA and PETG. This is probably, I guess depending on what you're using it for, the most useless filament on the planet. I'm running it in the Ender to print other stuff. Because when you're running this, it's a zero gap kind of situation where they're going to assume you're sanding and painting the thing. So it comes down to there are no gaps in the presets for this. It's just really about absolute support. And you're going to break off what you can, and then you're just going to sand off the rest or cut it off. I'm sure you could change the gap, but it tends to be the at least on the last firmware update, it tends to be that the last preset for this is there's a 0 Z gap between the support and the print. And even if there was, you'd still have to carve some other stuff out of there because it's going to be in between the lines of the bottom of the actual print as it goes up away from the support element. So it comes with everything you could need. A tip cleaner. I've never used that in my life. So it's just it's like somebody like, oh look, acupuncture, for one nerve. Probably the last one of yours that I'm getting on. So, I mean, there's really not a lot more to it. It comes with, these are not even half spools. They're just a couple of grams of material. They have good deals on the filament, but my suggestion to you is, since you're only running 4, I would get, 8 rolls, and then with spools, and then get a dryer that holds 4 rolls that you're going to use. If you have stuff that you're not using, just don't take it out of the box if you don't plan on using it right away. The EMS is controlled, the humidity controlled. It is, there's no reason to have more than 8 spools unless you plan on storing the material in a really big area that's humidity controlled. It's just, and temperature controlled and everything else. It just isn't necessary to have that many rolls because you can just buy refills. The refills are cheaper, and Sometimes you get deals where you order over $100 and it's free shipping, or over $50 and it's free shipping. Bamboo Labs is really good at their deals. They're doing like bulk sales all the time on the filaments. So you can get different colors, you can get different textures, you can get, I mean, they've got everything. The only one that I don't like so far, the only two I don't like so far, is ASA Aero, because that's like printing with a toddler that just doesn't listen. And there's PVA, which I haven't got the PVA to extrude properly yet, so I can dissolve it in water and see how it works. And it's a delicate material. It's kind of soft, the PVA. It is a water-soluble material, but using it in AMS is a bit risky. But then how else are you going to use it? Because you can't run it just straight through the spool holder on the back, because it's bypassed by the AMS. So you kind of have to run it in the AMS for it to work properly, or to work at all, to be useful. And what's the good of having a support material that you can't put in the AMS? So it's pretty soft. So you got to dry it if you use PVA. You really have to dry it, and then hope that it prints well. So, and then make sure that the humidity in your AMS is like at a 1. I never let it go above that. If I see it jump to 2, I'm changing out packs. So, the desiccant packs in the back of the AMS. So it's a wonderful printer. It poops a lot, believe it or not. I'm sure you've heard that before. That realistically that's a lot of waste. I can see how big the chamber is, the heated chamber on the hot end. So I believe you can change in each one of the filament presets how much purge there is, but you kind of want to be careful. You can purge into infill if you're doing multiple colors, so that does help to mitigate waste. But realistically, I think tuning it down, just kind of watching your printer and going, okay, it's pushed out all the white, now it's all black, and then just figure out how much filament was pushed out. How many millimeters were run through, and then just keep toying with that until you get to that perfect setting for whatever hot end you're using. If it's the 02, 04, 06, 08, I've used them all. They all work great. The 8's a little bit beefy to work with, but the 6 is really good for carbon fiber. So if you're doing a skinned airfoil, you can do really good airfoils with just regular gyroidal infill, which is really strong, at about 3 to 5% tops if you're doing like a big wing. And you can do one wall thickness with 0.6 nozzle with PETG carbon fiber. Not only does it come out looking completely smooth, like it has no layer lines, it is really, really rigid skin. Flexible to the touch, but you can't push your finger through it unless you put a lot of force. So it's just like any foam. It's stronger than a foam plane as far as pushing your finger through. So a lot of us, when we're looking at building planes, look at those kind of aspects. And they're like, well, 0.6 seems like it's a lot of material to use. But the carbon fiber makes the material lighter. Plus, it makes it to where it's a very smooth finish, where there's almost no layer lines. I'll show you some of the things I did probably in a later video. I'll probably do a carbon fiber piece. That's a wing. I'm talking PETG carbon fiber. PLA carbon fiber, same thing. Not as strong as the PETG carbon fiber, but still. It's a little bit more brittle, but the PETG carbon fiber at 0.6 nozzle makes just beautiful skins. And they end up coming out basically 0.6 millimeter width, which is, you don't need much more than that, especially if you're running a carbon fiber wing spar inside your plane. And that, it definitely makes it a strong wing with that gyroidal infill, especially. Some of the 3D lab print planes, they work well in the X1 Carbon. They don't work very well when it comes to using PLA Aero. They just come out too thin. Excuse me. Ugh. Oh boy. A sneeze attack sometimes. The PLA Aero is great for printing kind of like 2-walled to 3-walled wings with a light gyroidal infill. Still comes out really light, but it comes out almost feeling like a balsa. And it's fairly sandable. So it does expand, but it does when you're doing single wall stuff like 3D lab print stuff. Either my settings were wrong or their presets were wrong because it was coming out way too thin. It was like tissue paper. You could crush the parts in your hands really easy. So Bamboo Labs should probably update their presets when it comes to their ASA and their PLA, because we shouldn't be sitting here trying to figure out what works if they come up with a filament and a preset. It's like, tell us what you're printing on. Send us the preset for the material. It should just work. We shouldn't have to go through all the stuff that I like with ASA. I was going through all kinds of stuff to get it to work. And it just was not cooperating. And that was after drying it forever, like I'm supposed to. Excuse me. So yeah, it's seriously one of those situations where they need to get on their firmware, they need to get on their presets, and basically hone this thing in when it comes to your lightweight material. Because yeah, it works great, but the PLA Aero, but the ASA Aero is it's like you know what? I'm gonna intentionally punish myself today. Let's buy some ASA Aero. So I mean, if you got presets or if somebody knows, tell me. Leave it in the comments. And remember to subscribe if you haven't already, and share this channel with your friends. I'm trying to get it out there. I'm trying to entertain. I am investing in everyone's entertainment. And this is not cheap. Especially when you're dealing with motors that are 200 a piece, ESCs that are 300, things like that. I want to build another strike drone with 70 millimeters. Actually, I want to do it with 90 millimeters. That'd be fun. Because the 70 millimeter is great. And the 90 millimeters will draw less amps. So we are going to do another mini strike drone, not the XL, but like I'm doing with the big stuff, but another strike drone like the V10 Maiden. And but it's going to be 90 millimeter EDFs instead of 70s, and it'll draw less current. I think they're 48, but who cares? Run them off 48 volt ESC. I mean, 48, that just means more RPMs for me. Ugh. Allergies. When you live in the middle of orchards, you never have a clear nose. So it could be the Huskies' fault. Now we'll blame the orchards. So at this point, that's my only problem with bamboo. The mass pooping. Mass pooping is right. I did a print once that was just a small statue. And it was a statue of Mother Mary. It was for my wife. And it had 4 colors in it because it had just one AMS. So I did the 4 colors. There was so much waste from constantly changing the filament out that if you weighed it up, you could have printed a 200 gram part out of just the waste material. So it's like bamboo. If your machine is going to work perfectly the way it is, and you don't want to change how much waste there is, sell a filament recovery solution. They have them out. I mean, you see them on Thingiverse all the time. They have plans for it. You grind up the filament. But the poop that comes out of these machines is already in almost the perfect size to grind up in order to recover our material. So if we separated it from PETG and PLA and we kept everything separate, if we kept our poop separate from our Bamboo Lab X1 carbons, then we could recover the filament. So I would put out a filament recovery system that's specific to your designs. Make it look like the X1 with the colors and the injection molded plastics, and just make it look cool, and give us an opportunity to recover that waste material. Because there's going to be, and I'll tell you, there's a trick to this. There's going to be times that you run out of filament on the spool, and it'll pull it down through the AMS. The AMS will recognize that it's empty, which means that it's pulling in what's left of the filament through the PET tube in the rear. But it has a long distance to travel, so if the print finishes before it uses what's in the tube, after it's run out, then you have to take the AMS off, and you have to basically undo the PET tube from the top of the extruder and pull the extra material all the way out of the AMS. So you have this long piece of material you've wasted because the print finished right after it ran out, and the AMS couldn't pull anything back through. Because after every print, it pulls everything back through. So you get that long string that you have to throw away, along with all the poop. I don't know how many rolls of PLA that I could have recovered from the waste out of this machine. It's a great machine. But if they can get the waste management under control or sell a system to recover the waste, then that would be epic. I mean, you'd be making some money off of that, because everyone would buy an X1 carbon. They get 4 AMSs and hook them together, because you can hook 4 of these AMSs up and have 16 rolls of filament to choose from. And then they would have their recovery system, where they grind it up. This was PLA, this is PETG. They could keep their colors together if they wanted to, or they could mix them together just to have a gray prototyping material. But make a recovery system. I implore Bamboo Labs to make a recovery system so that we can. I know you're thinking, what about filament sales? Well, I'm going to be honest with you. If you sold enough recovery systems, I think you'd be all right with the people not ordering as much filament. Because to be honest, in order to get a deal, you got to order a certain amount of filament to get a deal. So I do end up running a lot of different brands of like Overture, Creality. I run all kinds of different PLAs and PETGs from different companies, and because it's cheaper. So I want a prototype of the cheaper stuff, but I want to make sure that the density and everything is correct and matches the Bamboo Labs PLA, so that when my extrusions are done, they're the same size internally when it comes to bearing holes and screw holes and things like that. Because the density of the material changes, then the extrusion changes, and then you end up getting, different dimensions when you're done. Because with the nylon, I noticed I can print a shaft for the fan out of PETG, and I don't have to put any of that silver tape around it to make sure everything fits perfectly inside the bearing and grabs the inner wall. But if I print it out of this nylon 6, it prints it out so small that I had to put a couple of layers of that basically that silvery kind of electronics tape, reflective tape, so that it would sit straight inside here and actually rotate the back end of the bearing and grab it. So there was a difference in the extrusion size from the PETG to the nylon 6 because of the density of the material. These are things that should be compensated for inside the slicer. You've made a printer that is almost hands off, but you really need to focus on the software side towards more hands off. Like if we make a 10 millimeter hole that's supposed to fit a peg, the slicer should know how to extrude it. I shouldn't have to make the change. Yeah, I would go 10.1 millimeters on the hole and 10 millimeters on the plug. But the larger the circumference of the print, the less of an offset you have to make, so it scales up. So if you made a 0.1 millimeter offset or a 0.2 millimeter offset on a small 10 millimeter diameter and it fit, if you raise it up to 100 millimeters, it would be too loose with the same offset because the offset is then multiplied 10 times. So you have to take that into consideration. The slicer should take that into consideration. That this is my offsets. Maintain those offsets via your extrusion so that the model's accurate. And because I've found myself with FDM printing, I've basically gone to, okay, test a few different prints, see how things fit together with different materials at different sizes, and note the offsets that work perfectly with those filaments, with those sizes, with those shapes, with the parts that click together. You make a chart and you go, okay, well, I'm running this filament today, and I know that the hole it's gonna need is this many millimeters, and the peg is gonna be this many millimeters for this project. On the chart, it says I need to make sure that the offset is this much inside my CAD program. So you have to make sure you get that offset chart set up so that you can go through materials. I've used all kinds of materials. They say don't use cardboard in the AMS, but I've used Overture and it's only on cardboard. I've never had an issue. I think what they're worried about is the fact that the rubber rollers on the AMS will pick up the cardboard particles and cause the rolls to slip, which means that it will think that there's a problem. So I see where they're coming from, but if you just keep them clean with an isopropyl alcohol wipe, then you can run the cardboard spools in there pretty easy, as long as the cardboard spools aren't like marred up from shipping, and they're fairly straight. Then they work just fine. I haven't had an issue with it. The AMS is taking everything I've given it, cardboard or not. So it's working out pretty well. Other than that, what else are we covering? We've seen that the printer has been unboxed. Yay! And apparently there's a clock to make. So the up and coming projects. I kind of wanted to go over real quick everything that I'm doing as far as the projects are concerned. Now, what I want to do first. That's a hard question to answer because I'm doing everything based on what I can afford to get at the time. It's just because I'm on benefits and that's how I have to roll. Okay, so everything is done as I can afford it. Things like this are done at my own peril. Let's just say I had 2 kidneys at one point. My point is, going into debt for something is, you're still paying for it. So even if it's over time, you're still paying for it. So it takes time, it takes money. I enjoy doing this for everyone. You want me to calibrate it? Okay. All right. I mean, I'd have to pull a power supply over here, but I don't have to put any spools in it to calibrate it. So we put the spools away. Lots of packing material. Lots of useless packing material. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I could hook it up and run a calibration. Dog has torn up all the foam. Oh my goodness. That's okay though. He's a good dog. Okay. All right, let's get it calibrated. Let me grab some power. 1 second, y'all. Alright, just make me calibrate it on the screen, why don't you? Okay. I'm right here, by the way. Hold on. Pull the power over. Okay. First thing we're going to have to do is double check everything's okay. I was going to do that off camera, but I'm going to double check everything anyway. It's going to say the AMS is empty because it is. I am not going to do anything to the printer before I plug it in. Let's make sure everything's good. The bed will come up, and then I'll be able to take the foam out. All the screws are out. The bed is in there. Everything looks good. Hold on. One more piece of tape down in here. And we were looking at that's the charcoal filter on the inside. This is clear. Everything's clear. Everything's good. All right. Fingers crossed. I need to leave that open because I'm going to have to take the film out. Or the foam out of the bottom. All right. She's booting up. And then I'll do a calibration. Every printer needs a calibration. So we'll get the calibration done. It's in English. Next. What? It's like the region where you're located. Same as it. It wants me to connect to a Wi-Fi, but we can skip that. Okay. I want to log in. Yes, I agree to terms of service. Skip that. Next. Okay, calibrations. Calibrate. Take these out. All right, so now the printer is doing its calibration. And in this stage, it's doing homing tool head. So we'll let it do its calibration. You don't need that anymore. Maybe you can turn it into a tray or something. Would you like an old dove? Better yet, would you like a useless clock? All right. That was funny. So right now, everything is homing. And it'll go through this homing and calibration process. It'll do an XY sweep. It'll do a noise cancellation to give you the quietest run that you can have. So after this calibration, we'll see what she does. You can see that the AMS is saying I'm empty. We don't care. Now, right now, you can kind of see, you probably can't see inside the printer, but I've got the mic up here so you can hear the motors. That right there is the motor calibration and noise cancellation. It's going to go through every frequency it has, or that it can, until it finds a quiet operation. I'm going to leave the mic right here so you guys can hear it as it does that calibration. Excuse me, I need some tobacco. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Like and subscribe. Otherwise, Santa will know. Just come on in, Colt, whenever you want to. Decepticon sound. Yeah. So I don't know that you can read the screen, but it says sweeping XY neck mode, 23% complete. And then we will continue. You outside, buddy? Clean up all the mess that he made. This is that sweeping motion that it's doing, where it's going from corner to corner and deciding which motor noise is the best. I guess is the best way I can describe it. It's going through different motor frequencies. Anybody have any questions so far? Any questions about any of the projects, the printer, anything at all? Just shoot them on across. Okay, doing the other side now. We're at 36%. 36%. Doing well. I got to pick up the mess that the dog made. All right. All right. So, shop talk. First off, if you started off with an Ender 3 like I did, that, if you go back to the beginning where of the Shrike compilation, the Shrike playlist, the Shrike playlist started off on the Ender 3, which was grueling for the wait. But I didn't know it at the time because I was used to an old A-net that I had a couple of old A-nets, and those were, one thing I hated more than anything was bed leveling. That's what I love about this printer. You don't have to worry about bed leveling, like ever. The great part is when you send a print out, you make sure it's doing bed leveling, printer calibration, make sure everything's checked before you send it off to the printer. And it's completely Wi-Fi capable. So basically, did it come with an SD card? Let's check. I don't know that it did. It's not in the screen. So let's see if it came with an SD card. It should have come with an SD card. For scraper, for extruder, on in. No SD card? Isn't that a crying shame? I thought it came with an SD card. Mine did, I think. Oh, my first one. No, there's no SD card. I'm gonna have to get an SD card for it. There's the filament cutters I was talking about. Comes with 2 extra filament cutters. They're just, you know how the filament cutters are. So there's these blades that snap into the blade carrier. My huskies are going crazy. Probably over a cat. Okay, so everything is in this tray that is applicable to the printer. I'm going to put it back in this box so I don't lose anything. Alright, that's garbage. I'm not going to need that. Alright, some of these stickers I'm going to get rid of. These screws you don't need to keep that you take out from the bed. I keep them because that's who I am. Because I never know when I'm going to need a 3mm screw for something that I don't have. If I'll wait till the build plate totally cools. That I can attest to. Especially if you're printing with a PETG or anything with a carbon fiber. Do not pull the plate off until it cools. You can if you're wearing gloves, but it is not recommended that you pull any plate out while it's hot. Do not recommend that. So we're still doing the XY sweeping motion, and we're going from there. Some trash on the ground. So we'll take care of that. everyone's enjoying the live stream so far. I am. Don't care if you're not enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. See? Oh, we're going to get to this shrike. See this? Oh, they're all hanging down. That's because they were operated by servos. And I had 64 millimeter turbines, but I still have, not a turbine, BDS. I have 64 millimeter BDS. Want to do a tricopter with this? I'll probably lock it into place since I'm using a flight controller at this point. And then I'll have a pusher on the bottom. I know it sounds kind of wild, but this is what I was doing for our first original trike. So what I'm going to end up doing is using this to basically make another one. I'll start off with using this one by taking all pieces I don't need, so on and so forth. We're printing it and have a better material on this printer. And then going from there. So I've got skateboard bearings in there that I was using, the servos, and I was using an analog control system like you would in a plane. And just I was trying to use it, a hitch and a yaw, and it was not working. But this is still something I am going to build, and I think it'll be cool. Let's get it out there without destroying it. All right. So between that drone, between the Shrike, between the Shrike XL, between Sally, which is our little multi-role plane, that and the P-51, which I still have to hope I can fly this thing. What was going on with this was I pulled everything out of it. I'm using a F405 wing from Speedy B. So the Speedy B F405 wing is what's in this little 700-800 millimeter P-51. And it's incredibly difficult to control. Well, what I ended up having to do was turn off any kind of stabilization in the ailerons or the elevator or the rudder and just run RC and then set my exponential on the radio. Because I realized, I don't know why, but anytime I would aileron, it would rudder. Or anytime I was using the aileron, it would elevator up. So if I banked left, it would elevator up. If I banked right, it would elevator up. And I wasn't sure why I was doing that. Probably a setting in iNav, but so I basically turned everything off. Any stabilization. I do have weight or horizon set on a switch. So if I get in any trouble, I can click the horizon switch and it will stay straight and level. But outside of that, I'm just going to use RC rather than stabilized roll, pitch, and yaw. I'm not going to use stabilized roll, pitch, and yaw. So, and that'll help me get the ability to fly the P-51 without having to print propellers all the time. Because you've seen me fly this thing before, and it wasn't very successful, but it was funny. I split this thing in two. I torn it apart. Now, you should have seen. You saw the glider. The glider just bit it hard. It was way too much power for those wings. I should have put a thicker, solid carbon fiber spar in those wings, and it might have survived. But other than that, it was just too much for that little turbine engine was too much for that glider. That was a 70 millimeter. I love EDFs. Can you tell? All right, where are we at? 82%. Now it's doing circular motions. It does this on every calibration. And it looks like it's just about done. So this is 84. Okay, complete. Next. Start printing. It's telling me to start printing, which I'm not doing. Not here on the table anyway, because this is on wheels. And I told you before, if I do the Benchy test on this right now, which I don't want to do, this table is going to be all over the shop because it prints at an incredible speed, and this is on wheels. So we're not doing that. But I did want to do the unboxing. I did it. I did want to do it for Bamboo Studio Bamboo Lab because they requested one from me before for the other one, and it was fun. It was fun doing an unboxing. What can I say? And it's always fun to unbox new stuff, right? I would have done the filming of the unboxing of the camera you're looking at me through, but that kind of would have been impossible. Maybe I could use my phone, but why do you care? It's a camera. Anyway, the point is, next up on list is going to be the motor that I have coming in for the Stubby Fan D3. That's going to be the one that drives the planetary carriers and gives me the 4-to-1. That's the next test we're going to be doing. Outside of that, I'm going to be printing the rest of the parts for this 90mm plane, and then we'll be testing that after I find my servos. Because after I moved into all the new stuff, I ended the new binge and everything. I have a bunch of totes I still have to go through in order to make sure that I have everything I need to finish that. I believe I have everything. I have plenty of servos. They're just 9 gram is what I'm using. So we'll see how it operates, and we'll see how it works. I think it'll do well. So that being said, hold on. I have to let the dog in because he's going to keep scratching at the door. It's okay. It's okay. Usually I don't lock it. Come on, buddy. He's turning into a big boy. I'm telling you. And he's got a sister or a girlfriend. I guess I better choose that terminology correctly, right? And she's another rescue that we did, and she's an adorable husky, just sweet as can be. Was very apprehensive about being around men, so I think she was probably, abused by a man. She was more comfortable with women, but she's warmed up to me because she knows I'm not going to hurt her, and that feels good to me to do that for the huskies. To give them a home. Nobody likes them. Like, everyone loves them, but then some people get a hold of them and they don't realize what they're getting into. And trust me, if I had a loom, I could probably make sweaters from their hair every year, twice a year. So yeah, there's a lot, and they're energetic. You got to get them out. You got to run them out. And luckily, both of them together, they tend to wrestle around a lot, which is sort of like having 2 freight trains in your living room. So we've kind of had to make some room for them because they'll get into it. They'll get into it and they will just knock each other into the walls and just move couches. I mean, they don't even care. They're just like freight trains. And Colt, he's already up to 65 pounds. And here he comes again. What are you doing? Here, boy. Come here. What you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing, Colt? He's a good boy. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. He's a good boy. He's a good boy. Nobody can see you down there. Nobody can see. They can kind of see you. They can kind of see you. I didn't set the camera up for you. Sorry. Maybe next time. Does anybody have any questions? This printer is pretty much done with its unboxing and its setup. The only thing I didn't go through was doing the LAN setup. That's obviously easy for anyone who has Wi-Fi. And I didn't put any filament in it. Other than that, at this point, all you have to do is load filament. The great part about it is the filament that comes with it and the filament that comes from Bamboo Lab has RFID markers. So the printer knows exactly what you're putting in the AMS and where it is and how much you have. It'll also help to calculate costs when you're printing. So that's a good thing. Other than that, there's really not much more to cover. We know what the projects are. We know what we're waiting for. I've got some gear that I'm waiting for to come in, and then we'll be able to continue on with the rest of the projects that we've been doing and get a working fan that's going to be really, really cool, because we're hoping to hit at least 30,000 RPMs with this fan and see if the PETG can handle that kind of force against it, that dynamic pressure against each one of the blades, and see if we got our right material. Eventually, as expensive as this sounds, eventually this is going to be printed out of metal. Pretty much all the parts that I need to be printed out of metal will be printed out of metal. There'll still be a lot of 3D printed elements, but for the most part, the fan, the main shaft, the planetary gear system can all be done in metal. I wish I could find a place that would do a CNC on this fan, but all these people who boast about being able to 3D print or CNC something are charged. I mean, when you upload this fan to get sort of an estimate or a quote on 3D printing it or CNC, it's in the thousands. In the thousands. I could buy a machine if I had to do all the parts in this thing in metal that I needed to do, and I had to pay for all of them all at the same time, I might as well just buy a metal printer. That's how expensive it is. So, I don't quite understand how they're making money. If people, I guess they're just banking on the fact that people just don't have enough to get a metal 3D printer, or they don't have the room for it. I'm thinking Maker Forge. I'd love to get a Maker Forge to give that a shot, because it's sort of a standalone system. And Formlabs has some SLS or sintering printing technology that I would love to get a hold of, to give that a shot for some stronger parts, so I can kind of experiment with that. That would be fun. Laser sintering. So they have a whole kit that has like just everything you need, the washing station, the curing, just everything you could think of. But the thing is, I need the rest of my organs, so I can't sell anymore. I'm kidding. I haven't sold any of my organs. My organs. Keyword. I'm just kidding. Yeah, sintering is the future. I believe you. I just wish I could afford one of the machines right now, because it would kind of up my game as far as these turbines are concerned. I really think it would. I really think it would. I could get more durable materials for the fans. It would be a learning curve in order to get into it. I've done SLS like crazy with resin Formlabs. I had their Form 2 at one point, tiny little machine. Love to get some of their newer stuff, and try some of their tough resins and other resins to see how they stack up against FDM printing when it comes to strength, when it comes to these fans. Stop eating the packing material. Colt, stop eating the packing material. Yeah, I agree. I think it would make it a lot easier. A centered planetary gear system would be really good. We could cast it all, yeah. The only thing I'm worried about is dimensional accuracy at that point. I think dimensional accuracy would come into play. So it's a matter of understanding how much shrinkage that there would be in the material for sand casting or lost wax casting. Lost wax would probably be the closest we'd get, as long as we understood what material we were using and what the shrinkage rate of that alloy would be. I think we'd have to take that into consideration when doing the lost wax print. Now that's an option with Formlabs. It's a bit cheaper. You could get a smaller printer if you're doing just the gears, and you could do it in lost wax material resin, so that you could basically do lost wax. But then you got to get all the stuff for the lost wax, like the plaster and the spinner and everything else. So there's more expense to it. So either way you go, there's a big investment. So you have to kind of consider how you're going to do it. How precise do you need to be? Well, you need to be pretty precise with these gears. I can tell you that. I've chewed up sun gears with carbon fiber PET, made out of carbon fiber PETG. Never done the nylon ones yet. So when the motor gets here, we're going to see how long that sun gear lasts. We know from previous videos, from previous shorts I've done and tests, that the sun gear takes the brunt of the damage, and that's where we have the issue. So if my thought was if I just did a sun gear in metal, it would be pretty cheap, but it still cost me $60 for that one piece. And it's a little tiny piece, and I would do it on tool steel. But would it then again turn against the planetary gears and unleash its force on them and destroy them? So you kind of have to weigh your options. Print one piece in metal first, see how it works. If it tears up the planetaries, do them in metal. See how that works. If that tears up the ring gear, then do that in metal. So you're basically, and then you have to consider cooling it. You have to have good lubrication. You have to have good. There is airflow basically coming in straight over the front of the fan. So right over the front of the fan is where the planetary gear system sits. So if I put little fins on the sides of this, for cooling, and they did it out of aluminum, it would work great. But I don't see any issue with cooling the motor, and I don't see any issue with cooling the planetary gear system, since the air is going to either be pulled in from the front or pushed out through the rear over both systems. So cooling won't be an issue. Plus, I'm going to have, for the motor, I'm going to have an inline amp meter and voltmeter. So tell me how many volts, how many amps it's pulling. I know the current of the motor, so I can safely, run it without burning it up, basically, and see how much torque it pulls when it starts spinning those planetary gears. I'll see how many amps it can draw. We know what the peak of the motor is, and we know that I have a 48 volt ESC at 150 amps, so I've got plenty of overhead. And I've got 70C batteries. I've got 100C batteries for the lipos. I've got 50C batteries that we could, chain up. I've got 120 C battery for the 14S if I wanted to do 8S. And it could support anywhere from, 3 to 12S. So it's like I could use pretty much any battery configuration I wanted. So my ESC and motor can handle all the different voltages that I have, so we can see what works the best. 48 is obviously going to be the best as far as RPMs are concerned. So, question from SAG, Sucks at Gaming. I'll just call you Sucks at Gaming. I don't want to call you SAG. It sounds bad. A Bear system. Oh, gear system. What do you mean by taking the load of the batteries? Making less. Oh, you're saying, will the gear? Well, yeah, I think because we're not spinning at a high kV, we're using a really low kV motor. We're using a 190 kV. So that's because I need that torque. And that's why I chose a scooter motor, because it's moving a human body, so I know it's got the torque. I think it'll handle that planetary gear system just fine. I think it'll. I think it will, because the other one that I had that was 100 kV worked great. The only problem was I kept burning up that sun gear, so I couldn't get past a certain RPM. So I'm kind of hoping the Nylon 6 performs better. I'm getting also that Interflon spray-on lubricant, the dry lubricant, so that that'll kind of help, I think, a little bit at least. A lower kV motor that draws less amps will definitely extend flight time. Absolutely. So the only trade-off is weight, really. The motor's bigger, the batteries, they can be whatever size you want, but that depends on what flight time you're looking for. You can get away with, like, for example, if I run a 48 volt motor on each one of these things, and I make a drone out of it,
what it's gonna end up pulling is 48 times 4, but it's really just 80 amps times 4. So 160, 320. So 300. That's why I'm splitting it between two of the power distribution boards, so that it can handle the load. But yeah, I think it'll extend flight time because you don't have the current draw of the smaller EDFs that are up in the 1400, 1500 kilovolt range. Those can pull a battery down pretty quick. So you have to watch what C rating you're using with those so that you don't overheat the battery and overheat the whole system. So that's one of the things you have to watch out for. But I think with these lower kV motors and the lower amp, we'll check to see if there's any amp spiking when it's hitting those higher RPMs with the planetary gear. But whatever it spikes at, the ESC can handle. I just want to be able to put a governor on it close to the max amps of the motor so that I don't burn those up. But with the RPMs that we're looking at, it should be substantial as far as the thrust goes per motor. And these two guys who came out with a drone where they use gears to run the props. Joint ran for literally 2 hours. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's exactly what I'm doing. Is I'm extending my runtime by using a gear system because lower kV motors pull less amps, higher volts but less amps. So in order to get the RPMs you're looking for, you want to go with more volts, and it'll draw less amps. It's just the name of the game. So that was the real big thing that I had a problem with. It was basically, I kept going down in kV on the motors to see which kV could push the fan without overheating at close to full throttle. So that's what I was trying to do. And it worked really well with Stubby Van V1 with an 800 kV at 22.2 volts. It probably would have worked better with an 800 kV at 48 volts. But you could still get the same RPMs theoretically by pushing it with a 400 kV and at 48 volts. That's direct drive. So you got to go 48 times 400, and that's your RPMs. So the 190 times the 48 is going to be the direct drive RPMs, but at 4-to-1, you get over 30,000 RPMs. So that's why I'm doing it this way. And we'll be monitoring the temps. We'll be monitoring the amps that it's drawing on this next run when I get that motor. And then we're going to set it up on the stand. We'll try and get a weight pull test, but I still only have the fish scale. I really need to get a load sensor set up. But the fish scale works, right? If the fish scale wasn't somewhat accurate, there'd be a lot of unhappy fishermen. So I'm hoping that it's somewhat accurate, but it wasn't in the past, because it's like, oh, you're pulling 7 pounds with just an 800 kV motor. But when I put that on the floor with no wheels and the battery and everything else that runs it, it could easily slide across the floor at like a quarter throttle. And just pure friction, 3D print floor, flat, just, it was moving my whole table, and the table was 50 pounds. So it was pushing more air than the scale was really telling me. The 4-to-1 I can run if on this system. So PXD Squared is saying, would you like to see something like a 4-to-1, 8-to-1, 16-to-1 transmission? That would be cool. That would be cool. If you're thinking about just like using one engine in an airplane, that could work. That would actually be perfect to have a clutched system that goes from one gear ratio to the next, just like the transmission in a car. You're not going to start off in fifth gear. It's just not going to work. That's why they make the transmissions. Clutching something like that I don't think it would be too difficult. I think it would be just a matter of a bar that goes all the way through to the primary and then sliding each one of the gears into place as they go. We'd have to design something. So yeah, the scale doesn't account for the weight that it did move. It actually moved a lot more. And Flex Gaming says, I'm excited to see you'll take this thing in. I have mentioned the ADF quads are so yeah, well, yeah, they are. I don't know why I get criticism from the EDF drones. I get a lot of people that come in, they'll say, how is this better than a conventional drone? And I keep thinking to myself, well, part of concept that they didn't grasp when they were looking at the videos. It says concept drone. I had somebody tell me it wouldn't fly for more than a minute or two. But you saw me flying it around 4 minutes, 5 minutes. And I was only on a 6,000 milliamp, and I didn't kill the whole thing. I didn't kill the battery all the way. But I did stop it because I didn't have at the time a way to read the voltage, and I didn't want to destroy the battery by undervolting it. So that was one of the things that I had to deal with. 7+ pounds of thrust on a scale, and the most 10 pounds of equipment. Yeah, I think that 7 was wrong. It was very wrong. Well, yeah, that's one of the main reasons I did this was I plan on building something I can ride. My wife is probably shaking her head no at this point. She does not want me to get on something that I created. I don't know if that's not confidence in my work or if she's just scared I'm going to hurt myself. But yes, the first thing I'm going to develop once I'm able to do these in mainly metal or alloy parts, and I find the motor combinations I'm going to be using. I'm going to be experimenting with different power systems such as hydrogen and hydrogen fuel cells for power for the systems, and I plan on making a quad out of these EDFs. So these turbines will be bigger, obviously. They'll probably be about 5 times their size that they are now, and or more. But basically, yeah, I'm going to be building a quad where something we can fly around. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. Scary as heck, but it'll be fun. I'll be the test pilot. Maybe I won't be. I'm 300 pounds. Which one of my viewers is like half my weight at least? Efficiency pushed 30% throttle, meaning it had to be at least 25 pounds. Yeah, I agree with that. I think 25 pounds is probably where it was at that time with that 800 kV. So which one of my viewers is willing to ride a quad that resembles the Shrike XL? If you remember that short where I introduced the Shrike XL, raise your hands in the chat. Raise your hands in the chat if you are willing to ride a quad that I build. Basically, it would be like a Shrike drone that you saw, the Shrike V10 Maiden. If you go look at that video and you think of that as something larger that you can get on, I mean, come on now. Who's with me on that one? Okay. PXD squared. I am the test pilot. I will get the waiver ready. Nothing personal. But you're signing a waiver. Yeah, he would speak up. He'd be like, I'll do it. No, we can't lose. I thought my wife probably wouldn't win. Though my wife, yeah, right. It's true. It's true. Sucks at gaming. You've got to make the wives happy. But it's hard to hear them yelling at you at a couple 100 miles an hour and 400 feet in the air. Divorced, retired. I'm be okay. Okay, well, it looks like BXD squared is our test pilot. He has admitted that he is expendable. So I think that's where we're gonna go. He's gonna be our test pilot. That'll be it right there. But imagine this system, obviously supersized, using a hydrogen fuel cell, running hydrogen for fuel, which will give us our runtime is going to be basically how much hydrogen you can carry. And you might be asking yourself, why am I getting on 2 hydrogen bottles with 4 large turbines that are spinning at several thousand RPMs? Why do I trust this guy who built this? And all I can say is it's nothing personal. There will be a waiver. Maybe what we need to do is get a crash test dummy first and then run it remotely from the ground. Because whatever happens in that video, it's gonna be funny. Okay. We'll put, and this system will obviously have an emergency drogue chutes on it and parachutes so that it can safely come down if something happens. So if the motors fail, any one of the motors fail, or if there's any malfunctions, it will automatically deploy its chutes and you can land safely, given that you're not only 10 feet off the ground. But at that point, I doubt it would do too much damage, unless the hydrogen bubbles explode. And at that point, I thank you for your service and your sacrifice towards me creating a safer tomorrow by exploding on my prototype. So that should work out well. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Gas tanks made by China. I mean, theoretically, it's Wright brothers at the first time. Yeah, they're flapping our wings, trying to not die, which is it's a good thing. Not dying, like I've said before, is a priority for me. So as we move forward in these experiments, as we decide to do different things, you're going to see, as I work on the bigger projects, you're going to see me working on some of these smaller projects. And that is not just for fun. It is for data collection. It is for design data collection to see if I can get the best design possible. Come up with something new, come up with something fun for the hobbyists, and work on my larger projects. So that one day when you're going to the grocery store, you don't have to worry about traffic. Wouldn't that be fun? What do you think about SS batteries? Don B, good afternoon, endorsed it before he died. SS batteries? I don't understand the acronym SS batteries. You'll have to break that one down for me. I may know it. I just may not know it as SS batteries. Oh, the solid states. Okay. Why that didn't name. You talking about like car batteries? Like just standard lead acid? Or solid state? Are you talking about explain this to me? I know lipos. Solid state. So okay. A car battery. You're talking about a car battery, right? Tell me you're talking about a car battery. Stop saying solid state. Is it a car battery or not? Don't make me run this thing on capacitors. Super capacitors. That could be an interesting backup power system, I think. I think that would work out well as a backup power system. Is that what you were talking about on the solid state with super capacitors? Come on, tell me. Tell me while I get another little bit of tobacco. Waiting. No acid meaning no dendrite. Okay, yeah, well, yeah, we don't want to deal with dendrites. It's better than lithium, which would make it last longer and safer. Okay. Yeah, I see where you're going with this. I definitely see where you're going with this. That is almost like the PEM membrane kind of thing. It's almost like like the hydrogen fuel cell in a sense. Uses those PEM membranes. I think I remember seeing what you're talking about, and that was a new battery that basically there was no way for it to develop dendrites and cause any kind of malfunctions or shorting. So give me 1 second. 1 second, my people, because I'm going to be wrapping it up here pretty soon. I want to make sure I've answered all your questions, and hopefully you all enjoyed so far what we've been doing. Well, you hear that torch going. So the mass, they move mass differently, so they degrade different. They hold the power in a different way. Okay. Yeah, we'll check into solid state for sure. But I mean, what's your thoughts on super capacitors for backups? I'm pretty sure we can get some decent sized ones that would run, and they can disperse a lot of amps. So that would give us a really good backup power supply when necessary. So there's a lot of stuff to think about when it comes to this. I have a preliminary design, but first we're working on the small ED or the small 170 millimeter EDF, the stubby fans. Working on the planes. We're going to be working with hopefully some 3D printed metal parts, so that we can basically move forward with this and see if we can get a solid system that's reliable, that works well, that we don't have to worry about stripping sun gears or planetary gears or ring gears, and that the fans can handle the forward pressure. Once we get that down and it's repeatable, then we can move forward with the Strike XL and then the gimbaled Strike XL rather than the solid connected Strike XL motors. And that is another project unto itself. It will play into the larger concept of a rideable vehicle. So I'm going to have to procure hydrogen power cells, so on and so forth, and go from there. So I hope that you have all genuinely enjoyed this live tonight. I hope that you like, share, subscribe, join in the fun, because I'm half the time burning stuff up in here and it's quite amusing. So, but then I'm also making some really cool advancements that I think that are quite interesting, and I'm definitely testing different engineering aspects of this. So that helps in my education as I get closer to my bachelor's degree in industrial engineering. And then after that, I'm going to continue on to aviation engineering, basically stuff like that, because I want to turn that into a master's. Yeah, the SS solid state batteries with the capacitors is a good. Hydrogen is great though. yeah, I understand that. You're thinking, I'm writing a hydrogen explosion. But if you store it in a hydride, then you could, if you store it in a hydride substrate, then you just heat up the hydride substrate and then you can extract the hydrogen that way. You'll hold less in each bottle, but it's very, reliable. It won't explode. You could put a hole in the tank, put a cigarette out in the hydride, and it'll just smolder. It won't explode. So the only way to release that hydrogen is to use a heating rod through the interior of the tank, and that's a safe way to store it. But it also depends on how much hydrogen it needs to maintain flight for a specific time. So we're going to have to go over that once we get to that point. And what are all the power makes hydrogen in that one battery case? Okay. Yeah. So you have a battery bank and forget the electrolytes and one and all power makes hydrogen in the battery. Okay, I see what you're saying. With no vent. The pop increase in atmosphere. Okay, yeah, that's true. That's true. And hydrogen is the way to go until we achieve fusion in the next 30 years. Maybe I'll achieve fusion. I wonder how many 3-letter agencies just jumped into the chat. So I won't be accepting drinks from strangers. I don't want to come up with the new power supply in public. Not in this world. They're too greedy on the fossil fuels. As soon as you come up with something new, you're like, look, this energy lasts forever and it's such a compact unit. And then you have an accident. Yeah. Yeah, it was till 1976. I understand what you're saying. But yeah, hydrogen and or, a I don't know, a beta voltaic battery system. Maybe NASA's got a couple RTGs laying around they're not using. Chances are your government who runs you already knows my address. So send them on over. But other than that, thank you all for watching. I appreciate y'all being here. I got to end it here because I did go over what my time was allotted. And I'm probably missing dinner. I don't want to do that now. So I hope you enjoyed the unboxing. I hope it was informative. You probably have already seen tons of these, but I had to do one. I had to talk about the shop. Again, I appreciate everybody who stopped by. I love you all. I love all the support. And look forward to the next video, which is going to be eventually spinning up this fan with the new motor and the planetary gears to see how that nylon 6 reacts. And then we'll be going for the metal gear parts, and we'll move forward from there. So y'all have a wonderful evening. Thank you all for coming. Please share this with your friends. Force them to subscribe. Force them to share. Grab their phone. Subscribe when they're not looking. I'm just kidding. And then let's get this channel going, because the more support I get from my subscribers, the easier it is for me to continue to make this content. So I appreciate everyone who has supported me. And I couldn't have done it without you. And my friends who have supported me locally, I couldn't have done it without you. So I thank you. And I look forward to another year of creating some really cool stuff and hoping they don't take away our rights to do so. So you all have a good evening. I love you all. Have a good night.